Welcome, everybody, to the Dynamics User Group meeting for February 25th. Thank you. As we worked through a few technical issues, we're almost completely doing an online meeting today. So just trying to make sure that everybody can get connected and then I can share properly before we get too far into the presentation. So today we're going to look at our agenda. For today, we're going to have a few words from our executive sponsor, Auditor Kilgore. I'm going to provide a D365 project update. Mary Ropp, who works with me that many of you have met, she's going to provide an update on our test scripts for the D365 project. Then we're going to hear from Vicki Vincent of Accounting and Operations for an update. And then we're going to have 3 demonstrations for you. The first from Maureen Hall. She's going to demonstrate a new feature in Dynamics 365 that allows us to group and total inside of list grids within Dynamics. And I know that that's been an ask in 2012 quite often, so I think that a lot of you will appreciate that. Then Kyle Nowak from Rec and Park is going to do a demonstration on personalization within 365. And then our implementation partner on Actuate, Bobby Kendall, is going to provide a brief Power BI demonstration. And for those of you who don't know what Power BI is yet, that's a business intelligence tool, allows us to do some ad hoc reporting. And I believe today's demonstration, he's going to use our budget planning data to provide his example. And then we're going to wrap up the day with Terry Bolton from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. And with that, I will turn it over to Auditor Kilgore.
Hey, thank you all, to everyone on the phone and in this room for being present today and putting so much time and effort into maximizing our D365 experience. I saw a lot of folks names I have not met before, and so I think most of you I have spent some time with, but just so you know, I started my career here under Auditor Dorian. I spent about 10 years at the city. I went to the private sector for about 3 years, and then had the good fortune of running for office, and I'm now back here in the city auditor's office. And what I want you to understand is our number one priority of our strategic plan is to modernize the city's financial systems. And, you know, a crux of that, of course, is D365. We're the 14th largest city in the country, and our city government is, in fact, a multi-billion-dollar business. The work that I know you're doing and your departments are doing are, frankly, it's worthy of systems that adequately support you. And we are so committed to this that, you know, we, and Cheryl graciously accepted to take on the leadership role. But this is our number one priority, is growing our technological experience for you. D365 is state-of-the-art technology that will improve all of our city's processes, making it easier for all of us to do business with the city, our outside partners, outside corporate citizens through vendor collaboration and so forth, and certainly increase our transparency to the general public. I am really excited about this, and I'm especially excited to see some of the Power BI and the personalization features that we're going to get into today. My point of offering some remarks at the beginning is simply to say thank you. Your engagement in this process, and in addition to all the core duties that I know you have to do, is not only recognized but very much appreciated. But you have to, I also want you to understand how essential your participation is to this success of D365. Thank you again for going above and beyond to making this modernization a success for all of us here at the city. And I really appreciate it and look forward to today's meeting.
Thank you, Auditor. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to provide a brief update for Project Elevate. And this form may look familiar to you. Starting last month, we started sending out this update. The intention is to send you something that looks very similar to this at least once a month. As we get closer to go live, you may end up seeing this more frequently. So there's a lot happening right now. We have a number of team members who are reviewing and providing feedback on design documentation. We've moved into budget planning, budget control, general ledger. This kind of outlines reports and improvement items that we've requested. In addition, there's multiple interface documentation that we're reviewing also. And then we have actually started iteration 2 of our data migration for this project. So we will actually go through 4 full data migrations before go live. The intention of this is to make sure that first and foremost we bring over that data correctly. Doing it 4 times gives us opportunity to see what might not be moving over properly, what maybe got missed, or, and just to do some validation on our data and make sure everything is transferring over as expected. The second thing that allows us to do is by the time we get to go live, we will have gone through the implementation process for D365 multiple times. So we have a script, we know what to expect, and we know approximately how long it should take. So that will allow us to communicate with you, let you know how long the system will be down, for this migration to D365 and when you can expect access to the system again. So right now we also have a number of individuals involved in test script creation. Mary is going to give an update on that shortly, so I'll just touch on that and move on. And then we are also working on extracting all of the documents that are currently stored in TCM. So as you may be aware, we are not going to be using TCM when we move to Dynamics 365, but obviously we don't want to lose all the documentation that you guys have painstakingly, in most cases, put into TCM. So we're working on a plan to pull all of those documents out of TCM, get them imported into D365, and then do a level of validation on that as well to make sure that we're seeing the correct number of documents, that everything's open, reviewable, and accessible as well. And then another note that I just wanted to mention, in order to use Dynamics 365, Office 2016 is a requirement. We have been working with DOT for some time to make sure that everyone that is going to be a DAX user will also have Office 2016. So between now and probably the end of June is our goal. You will be receiving a communication from DOT advising that they're going to be updating your machine to include Office 2016. So that's just an FYI so that you know that that is coming. If you are a Project Elevate team member, you should already have Office 2016 installed on your machine. If that is not the case, please let me know so that I can make sure that that is taking place. As far as what's next, we have a lot of design documents to still continue reviewing. We're going to continue creating test scripts for procurement, vendor collaboration, which is taking the place of vendor portal, the project module, and so forth. And then development for Columbus enhancements that we've requested has actually already started, but will increase in pace in the month of March as well. And then we'll be starting development of a training plan also. So then if you look on the right-hand side, as you receive these updates on a monthly basis, key upcoming dates is something to kind of keep in mind. You'll see that we have a sponsor meeting scheduled on March 3rd. It also kind of lets you know that we're expecting user acceptance testing to occur to start around mid-June, and then end user training beginning in July and going through August. And currently our go live is expected to be the end of August. Right below that, you'll find some contact information for the D365 team. If you do have any questions, I encourage you to reach out. We do have a D365admin@columbus.gov email that you can send any questions, concerns, or comments, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So then today I also wanted to share what some of the enhancements are that will benefit you. So I have a list of about 10 items here I just wanted to share, and as we continue to have these dynamics meetings, I'll share additional information, we'll do additional demos so that you know what to anticipate as we move closer to go live. So the first enhancement I wanted to share is that we do have a new report or inquiry that will display the receipts that were used against certain invoices. As some of you who deal with complicated invoices or POs know today, there is no exact easy fashion to pull up a list that shows you exactly what receipts were used. on a particular invoice, so that is coming. We have also redesigned the purchase order that we use to communicate with our vendors. This is going to be streamlined and allow us to communicate easily what our purchases are, what are the changes we're requesting, and cancellations to our vendors. So that's a completely new look and feel. We've actually talked with a couple of vendors, shared it with them, got their feedback. And then third, you will now see a new page within your GBR that will show you all of the purchase agreements that your GBR is associated to. We know that in the past there's been some questions. You think it's on there, you go to use it, it's not. Now you'll actually have a page that you can go into and you can take a look at what all PAs are associated to that GBR. And then fourth, we're going to have an enhanced PO confirmation batch process today that will allow the auditors to streamline PO confirmation. So the overall effect of this is hopefully to be able to provide confirmation of POs a little faster on certain POs that meet auditor-defined criteria. So this is a really good thing. We all know that Brandy Pumford, God love her, she does a lot of PO confirmation. So do others in the auditor's office to keep things moving. This will be more of an automated approach so that it will check for POs meeting certain criteria on a regular scheduled basis and then automatically confirm those POs. So fifth thing, under purchase agreement, and I'm not sure that everyone uses this today, but there are two options, released order lines and invoice lines, that are pretty invaluable reports. They will tell you every single line that has been procured against a given purchase agreement. What they don't have today is financial dimension information. So on our citywide contracts, where many of us are all using the same PA, it's really difficult to determine, what exactly was for rec and parks versus what came from public utilities. So for each of those reports, we're adding the financial dimensions so that you'll be able to filter on those specifically for your department, division, fund, subfund, and pull information out of that purchase agreement. And so then the sixth thing, I know that many of you love our current vendor portal, but we are completely getting rid of the current existing vendor portal, and we're rebuilding it. It's in 365, it's now known as vendor collaboration. The procurement team has been working very closely with our implementation partner, and we are redesigning that to allow vendors to register and bid on our RFQs much easier than maybe their experience is today. And to kind of build on that, we're also going to allow the vendor to submit their W-9s during their registration, which will prevent delays in obtaining this information later on. An optional, it's an optional that they add that during registration, but it's there if they would like to. And then currently when we issue an amendment on an RFQ, we all know that our vendor bids basically disappear today. So a vendor has to go back in and they have to completely redo their bid without having the benefit of what they previously had submitted to the city. So we do have a request or an enhancement, if you will, that when amendments are issued, a vendor's previous bid will be archived so that they'll actually be able to look at it and see what they previously submitted while they fill in their bid to meet the requirements of the amendment. And then our vendors are also going to have a payment workspace, which is something they don't have today. They'll be able to view invoices that have been submitted to us, to the city, but not yet paid. They'll be able to see those that are pending payment, and they'll also be able to see those that have been paid and obtain the check number as well that was for that payment. This is kind of intended to reduce the number of calls to the city, because I know that a lot of you are getting calls from your vendors wanting to know if payment has been made yet. Now we will be able to direct them to the vendor portal and they can obtain this information on their own. And then the final thing that I'll mention, although we're still determining exactly what features will be mobile compliant for our vendors, things like the payment workspace would be an optimal item to make available so that a vendor can check through their phone, through their tablet, that type of thing, to get their information faster than they necessarily can today. And then last topic that I would like to touch on this afternoon is end user training. So we're expecting that to start at the end of July and go through the end of August. As you all know, we have a lot of users to get trained. So because of that, we are starting in March, April timeframe to build our comprehensive training plan, right? So we can offer everyone training prior to our go live. So in March, you can anticipate that we will be conducting a training needs analysis across all the city departments and divisions. Through this analysis, we're going to be collecting information about how you like to learn and how you like to learn, what areas do you feel that you need additional training? Do you feel you need additional training on receiving, on purchase requisitions, GBRs, et cetera? And then we're going to use this information to aid us in creating the D365 training plan, which will probably include some face-to-face as well as online training options. And if you are interested in becoming a trainer and helping us to get all of our DAX users trained before go live, feel free to reach out to me and I can provide you with additional information. And with that, Mary, I'm going to have you come over here. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ropp. She's a Senior Business Analyst on the D365 project. She's going to give a brief introduction of herself as well as talk about the number of test scripts and the progress that has been made to date for our testing efforts for D365.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, met everybody in this room. For those of you who have not met me, especially those of you on the phone, my name is Mary Ropp, and as Cheryl said, I am the Senior Business Analyst for Project Upgrade. We are looking to upgrade from DAX to D365. As far as my background, I actually have a degree in accounting. I have 15 years of accounting experience. Out in the private sector, I've done everything from payroll to AP to AR to creating the financials at the end of the month and doing all the background schedules. So I've got a lot, and I actually used Microsoft Dynamics back in 2005, so it's vaguely familiar to me. Not had a lot of experience in the public sector, but I have learned quite a bit. I do appreciate everybody's time and patience with me as I've been getting up to speed since I started in December. All right, so let's talk about what I'm here for right now is testing scripts and testing. Again, like I said, a lot of you guys have known me and met me already, and it is probably having to do with test scripts. We have a very big, tall order ahead of us. Right now, we're looking at about 16 modules within Dynamics 365, and we've created roughly about 1,250 test scripts. And when I'm saying we've created these so far, that is kind of the ballpark where we're expecting to land and where we've done a skeleton or some rough draft. We are only about 35% complete finalizing all these test scripts, and we have about 48 users that are assisting us and all working together and leaning in to create these test scripts. I do want to take a little extra time, and I know that I've said this in the meetings, but I really appreciate everybody's tenacity and focus and patience and flexibility as we're building through these test scripts. I understand everyone's got at least a 40-hour-week job that they're trying to complete, and then I am popping into your office or calling you several times a week, a lot of you guys answering questions. What we've been trying to do is use as much as we can from DAX and what we have current state, and then modifying it for D365 usage. The great thing is as you guys start getting into the system, you'll see that a lot of the navigation is the same. So how we get there is very similar. The look and feel is a little different, but the functionality should be relatively comfortable once you get in there. there are some opportunities that we're trying to work around right now in our training environment. We don't have City of Columbus data, and we don't have all the customizations in. So that's kind of where I said thank you for everybody's patience, where we're trying to make something work without all of our data that makes it a little bit easier to do. That is coming, as Cheryl said, coming through with iterations, so you guys should be seeing city data soon. That's actually all I have. So I can pass back to Cheryl. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
I remember who's next up. Check. All right. So next we're going to have an update from Accounting and Operations, and Vicki Vincent is joining us today for that.
Hello there. We just wanted to let everyone know, they may already know, but the budget loaded last week. We would like to ask for your patience as we get things that are backlogged processed. Any true emergency expedite requests should be directed to Charlene Campbell. Obviously, not everything can be an emergency. Please be sparing in that. We wanted to remind you that we have lots of procedures, documents, instructions on our intranet site, DAX, but also things like grants, travel, legislation. And we want to let you know, too, we've been short-staffed in the accounting and operations area of the auditor's office for a while now, and we are doing some hiring and hope to have some new faces shortly, and we'll send out information, some tasks may be rotating and things as well, and we will be sure to communicate who is doing what, so you know to whom to get in touch with. And then we mainly just wanted to say thank you for all the work everybody put in to get us the data needed to close the books at year end and to start getting the CAFR out. We know we hit you up a lot, and as you're also doing D365, but we did just want to thank everybody for that. That is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Vicki. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and start our first D365 demo. This is going to be grouping in totals within a list grid. So give me 1 second here just to switch over to our 365. If I can find my mouse. All right, and with that, I will turn it over to Marnie.
All right. Good afternoon. This is Marnie Hall, Director of Financial Reporting. So today I'm going to talk to you about calculating totals and grouping data within a grid. So have you ever wanted to capture a quick total within a list grid, like within a trial balance? I mean, like without exporting it into Excel and manipulating the data? I know I have. And that's why I'm pretty excited that one of the new features in D365 includes calculating totals and grouping data within a grid. So the first thing we're going to do, oh, she's already there. I was going to say the first thing you're going to do is get to the trial balance, which is already navigated. But if I was going to log in fresh, I would go up to
We're just seeing.
Yeah, has everybody seen this? She's looking on her side.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, they can see on. Good, because I want you to see what I'm doing. All right, so I would go up to the search button up here, and I type in trial balance, and then that would take me right to the trial balance. Another way to get there is off to the left. There's actually the list of modules like you're used to seeing, and you can navigate that way. But I find that the easiest way to get there is using the search feature at the top of the screen. So I really like that. It's different, but I do like it. So if you're, let's say you're used to getting into the trial balance, and you're going to go to your parameters section up here, which is up here in the upper left corner, and I'm going to tell it what date period, what dimension set I want to search on. So this sample data that we have in here, it's not our data, but I'm going to put in CY for current year. This sample company happens to be have a June 30th year end. And then, let's see, I think I'm going to pick the dimension set. Look at here. Yeah, that's probably good enough, the one that it's on. Fund division, program, object class, main account. Looks good to me. And then I'm going to click on calculate balances. And then it'll come back, boom, with, I need to move that out of the way. So here is your trial balance. Now, on our trial balance in DAX right now, if there's no dimension, it may have a 0, but here it's a blank, which is fine. First thing I want to do is I like to be able to see everything in one screen, and now all my columns are off to the right. So I'm going to go up to the top, just pretty similar to DAX. And notice when I get my mouse right at the top, in between a column, I get like 2 arrows going left and right. So I'm going to move that over. So I'm just kind of going to squish my columns over so that I can see everything. Because that's what I like to do.
Implicit personalization, Marty.
Yeah. Okay, so now everything is on one page, so it's going to be easy to demonstrate. So what I'm interested in doing is I want to see total expenses. So the first thing I need to do is filter on the main account of expense. And this sample data has similar chart of accounts. So if I go, take my mouse, and I hover over, get over to the main account, there's a drop down. I click on that drop down, and I can sort or I can filter. And all I have to do is put in a 6. I don't even have to use the wildcard, and I'll hit apply. And now I've filtered on all the expenses. And so I'm curious as to what the total expenses are. So that's when I'm going to add a total. Now each grid, the grid footer is there's a grid footer at the bottom of every tabular grid in D365. And it's hidden by default, but you can easily turn it on by right-clicking on a column. So I go up to a column, I right-click, and I select Show Footer. And then boom, look at that. Isn't that fancy? Now we have a total. And it not only does it, this is part of my demonstration. I'm supposed to show you how to get the totals. All right, so now we have a footer at least. And it even tells us that there's 10 rows in my filtered page. So now if I want to add a total, and I lost some of my column width. You can say that. All right, I got to get everything over so I can see everything on one page. All right, so here's my total, and you can see they're already there. So I'm demonstrating that it's so easy to add a total. When you hover on the footer, there's like a plus sign, and you just click on it. So now I have a total in all my columns, and now I know, without having to export into Excel and run a sum, that there's $99,000 in expenses. But wait, there's more. Have you ever wanted to know, like, how many expenses there are per fund? Well, that's what you can do by grouping your data. So let's see here. So now, if I want to say my fund is off to the left here, I don't know what. See, I'm still a fairly new user, and I don't know why I keep losing my column width. So get that back here. So now I know that I have 99,000 in expenses. Now I want to know how many by fund. So now if I go over to the fund column and I right click, and nope. I think maybe I made the column too small. All right. Right click, there we go. Click on the fund and say group by this column. Boom. And look at that. Now, not only do I know that I have 99,000 in expenses, I know that 66,000 comes from Fund 101, and I know that my columns are, I have 30-some thousand in one fund and 66,000 in the other fund. So that was really quick. I could get a total, I could group by a certain dimension, and I have totals just like that without having to export into Excel. Now, you would say, well, what if I want to group by more than one field? Well, as of today, you can only group by one dimension, but I understand down the road that we're going to be able to group by multiple dimensions. I think maybe up to 5 is what I heard, 5. So, so that's coming. So anyway, I think this is a great option. If you want to ungroup, it's just a matter of right-clicking on the header there and saying, that was just ungroup. I probably am on the wrong, oh, here it is. Right-click in the column that you're grouped. This is not my computer. And I thought you could just ungroup it, but was it there? There it is, ungroup. Boom, and now you've ungrouped. And then you can also take the footer off and say hide footer, and now the totals are gone. So it's just whatever your personal preference is, but whatever you do, it'll save until the next time you're in this inquiry tool. So that's it.
So we just had one quick question online, was whether the question on the scaling run report spanning more than 1 year for June 2019 to 2020, which you can for some reports.
So some inquiry tools you can get multiple years, like voucher inquiry, but trial balance is only 1 year at a time. And Accounting Source Explorer, I thought, was being expanded to have more than 1 year. But I might be dreaming that. It might have been a dream.
I believe that's true.
It might be a true dream. But we'll get back to you for sure. And is that it?
All right. Thank you very much, Marty. All right, so our next presenter is going to be Kyle Nowak from Rec and Parks, who's going to demonstrate D365 Personalization. So I'm going to take just a second here to get set up technically. Very shortly here.
Do you want me to go ahead and share?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I can get it up on the screen here. So go ahead and start sharing, and we'll just make sure that it's viewable up here too. And then are you seeing it on this screen too? Yeah. All right. I love technology when it works. That's good for this project. All right. Okay, Kyle. So go ahead and take it away.
So I'm going to talk today a little bit about how we can personalize your individual D365 environment. If you've tried to customize your DAX environment, I'm sure you found it a little clunky, and maybe you haven't fully taken advantage of the customization that you can do. If you're like me, you've probably taken any of the profiles that Brandy Pumford has put or saved in there and are using those today. The good news is if Brandy does that for us in D365, we can still upload her work. But if not, it's a lot easier to personalize. So really quick, I will probably confuse the terminology here a little bit, but there's a difference between customization and personalization. Customization is actually us altering the D365 environment to fit the city of Columbus. The less customization we do, the more streamlined and potentially faster the application itself will run. So if we can accomplish what we want to through personalization, that is going to enable the application itself to continue to run quickly and smoothly. Just really quickly, what you're looking at on the screen right now is your dashboard. So when we sign into DAX today, I don't find the current dashboard overly useful, but it does have a link to our purchasing catalogs that I can get to. However, otherwise, I don't work too much in it. With D365, we're going to work in our dashboard, and these individual little tiles here are called Workspaces. We'll get into those in 1 second. I'm going to try to work slowly so the lag doesn't catch up and that you guys can keep up with me. The first thing I want to talk about is implicit personalization, or implicit versus explicit personalization. In DAX, DAX currently, we can't really do implicit personalization, or we can for the session that we have open. As soon as we close DAX, that implicit personalization will go away the next time we open it. In D365, when you perform implicit personalization, it stays. You log out, you log back in, you switch computers. The way that you have personalized your environment will be there for you every time. I'm going to show you a few quick ways that we do implicit personalization, and then I'll do a few explicit personalizations, and I'll show you Workspaces. This sidebar here, which is very similar to DAX, you can pin, open, or closed. If you leave it closed, you get more workspace. You can open it, and you can pin it. Up here in settings, you can select user options. You can change your color if you have a color preference that you would like to see. Underneath it here where you have these grid sizes, if you have a smaller computer screen like myself, you may look to work with a compressed version so you can get more columns across your screen. If you also have trouble seeing like myself and you would like to use it with less columns and have larger text, you can click between these two sizes. With the lag, I'm not going to show the difference, but it does kind of blow up your screen a little bit more for you so you have the ability to see less columns or more columns based on your preference.
And Kyle, I'm going to throw in that when you say lag, you're referring to the WebEx lag,
Yes.
right? Not dynamic.
Yes, I apologize.
To be clear for everybody.
The WebEx lag. There are some other preferences in here that we could look at, but there's nothing that any end user shouldn't be able to look at, kind of thumb through and figure out on your own. Just for familiarity's purposes, when you want to close out and get back to your home screen, it's the top right X, and it will bring you back to the screen that you were on previously. So I want to show a little bit with the implicit personalization. And what that really is just as simple, can be something as simple as stretching your account or your column out. So I stretched out the vendor name column. If I go away to budget analysis and I come back, my implicit personalization is still going to be there. I still have that really wide column, where currently in DAX today, if you would do that and you logged out or you went away to a different screen and you come back, potentially that personalization is gone. If I open up a purchase order here, right now the header is not open, but if I open up our header, the header can remain open at that point if you want it. So anytime you open any of these subfiles that you see here, address, delivery, your price and your discount, when you come back into the header, those will still be open. So if there's one that you work out of primarily, instead of having to go down and open that every time, it's just going to stay open for you if that's what you would like to see every time that you're in there. Here, so I'm going to blend a little bit between implicit and explicit personalization. Implicit personalization, just as a summary there, it's little things like that that you're doing in your environment on a daily basis. Pretty much the more we start to work in it, the more that it's going to kind of take our customization I misspoke there, our personalization. And that's kind of why we call it implicit, is we may not even realize that we're customizing our environment, but it's going to stay. And that will be very helpful for all the users moving forward. This is just a draft. So if I open up a confirmed purchase order here, actually, leave it here. Explicit personalization is going to use what they call the Personalization Toolbar. So if you try to personalize anything in DAX, we would oftentimes get to the pop-up menu with just about every kind of data field imaginable that you could add, and some of them wouldn't bring in the information that you want. There was a lot of duplicates. This personalization toolbar is really just an updated version of how we would actually customize DAX today. So for instance, if I want to add a field in here, I can just simply select Add Field. I come down and I click in my column headers. And this lag is because of WebEx and a little bit of a trial environment. But then over here, we can see all the different fields that we can add. So if you want to add any number of things here, there's contact ID, confirmed delivery date, any of these fields that you want, you can select multiple ones, and you click and you select Insert, and it's going to drop it in there for you. Hopefully that did. Well,
I think it wants you to reload the page from that message up there.
and I think the reason it didn't load is that we do have currency now in there. So if currency wasn't in there before, I got it to show up now. That is an example of explicit personalization. So you're actually telling DAX to add something to it. You're not just collapsing a field or collapsing a column or making it larger. You're actually explicitly telling DAX, I need this column and I need this field in there. When you do that explicitly, it's obviously going to save it just as much as your implicit personalization. But I want to come back and talk about our dashboard and our workspaces. The workspaces are really neat because it can help you organize your information in a way that you don't have to sort by your name or your order or by a company. You can set things up for you to have it work that way. When you click on one of these workspaces, you can have one of three things, and we're going to build this out, so I didn't build it out yet. You can add this blue tile here. It's called a tile. There is a link, so these links will open up specific criteria that you have specified before you save them. And then there's also lists, which are really basically a pane that will show whatever you're looking for, in this case, purchase orders, again, based on the criteria that you've chosen. Just to show how easy it is, I'm just going to delete this. And we're going to start over really quick and add them. I apologize. So to add a workspace, you click in here. You can personalize this. There we go. My personalized dashboard, I want to add a workspace. And it brings a workspace up for me. My workspace 6 is this new workspace. I'm going to rename that purchase orders. And if I click in there, it's empty right now. So if I come back to purchase orders, and then maybe I want to find just purchase orders that were created by myself. I apply the filter, and I get just my purchase orders. And then up here in the header, we have it's under options, but we have a personalized little pane or option here, and I'm going to add this to my workspace. When I add it to my workspace, I can add it as a tile, a list, or a link. So if I just add the tile, what this is going to do for me, I want to show, I think is a neat thing, is it shows the count on the tile. So this is all of my purchase orders right now, and since we only have, 7 or 8 of them, it wouldn't make much sense for me to break them out, but you could have confirmed purchase orders or open purchase orders or fully invoiced purchase orders. But I'm going to add that tile. And if I come back over, happened last time as well. I think I have to rename this one more time. Close enough for the moment. Up here we'll see there's purchase orders, and unfortunately I don't think the tile summer took just my purchase orders on that personalization. But there are 31 total purchase orders that we have for the whole department. However, it did still filter on, or in our environment, but it did still filter on my name. Since we're in here now, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the filter on created by just me. And maybe I want to look at just confirmed purchase orders. So I'll go to the approval status, and it's all just confirmed. So I have all of our confirmed purchase orders for our environment. And then I want to add this to the workspace, but instead of a tile, I want to add it as a list. Now the list is probably the most intense one that we're going to look at having to add. You can only have 8 columns on this. So you have to choose which 8 columns that you would like to have in there. If you wanted the total, if you wanted what status it is, a contact, any of these fields you can add, but you can only have 8. So I'll add my confirmed ones. And then maybe I just want ones that are in draft as well, so I make sure that I'm not leaving them out there hanging in the universe. And we'll do the same. We're going to add it to the workspace. We're going to do it as a list. And I'm not going to mess with any of the columns. Oh, I'm sorry. You got to rename it to draft. And then let's say we work specifically with just 1 or 2, or not specifically with just 1 or 2 companies, but there may be 1 or 2 companies that you have a number of purchase orders open with and that you deal with on a regular basis. You can actually put a link back into that workspace that will pull up just their, just that company's purchase order, or just any of the criteria that you may search on purchase orders or anything of that nature. So now we have draft, approved, status. I don't think we have any confirmed for Decker, but I'm going to add this to my workspace, and I'm going to do it just as a link. And I'm going to call it Decker POs. So in the 5 or 6 minutes that we were there, if I come back into my workspace now, I've got my summary, which says, 1, it gives me a link to my purchase orders. It's 31 total, but it will bring me to my the ones that I have opened just by myself. Over here, I'll need to rename this. So this is purchase orders confirmed. And I have my list. So I can see confirmed purchase orders. It doesn't just have to be on 1 column, so I can do a confirmed by myself, and just Decker Construction. So you can get as detailed and down in that you want, or you can leave it rather open. You can click on purchase order draft, and it will bring up the ones that you had in the draft. And then if I scroll over here, and I apologize, my screen is not large, this would usually show up all just on one regular screen. I've got my link to Decker POs, and if I click on that, it'll take me to the purchase order screen, and it will bring me just to the Decker Construction Company purchase orders. So that's really, the workspaces and the dashboard are going to be incredibly more useful than what we have today in DAX, and it just ties in with all of the personalization that we can do. As you get into it, the more you start to work in DAX, the more it's going to start, or the more you start to work in D365, the more personalized it's going to be to you. And then these workspaces are going to provide us end users an opportunity to really personalize and utilize D365 in a way that we don't have to change our workflows to the program. Hopefully, we're going to be able to use this application to make our work or our processes a little bit more efficient, a little bit quicker.
If you're looking at a Decker construction, would it be the case, is it case sensitive? So if they spell it slightly, in lowercase, and you were querying it out?
I don't believe it's case sensitive, but just like as it is currently, if you do, I don't know if I can search it here. So you have exactly, is not, is one of, matches. I believe one of the other options is contains. So there are, which are, I think, the same fields that we currently see today in DAX. And for everyone who couldn't hear, the question was basically, is it case sensitive? And I don't believe it's case sensitive, and Cheryl confirmed that it's not. So there's a lot more with customization that you can do. There are a couple good videos and modules on Microsoft's website, and I've actually pulled and created a PDF, and we'll probably continue, I will continue to try to do that. So if it becomes useful and it's something that Cheryl and the team wants to let out once everyone has an opportunity to start training on D365, we can all work to try to personalize the environment to help ourselves be as efficient as we can be as end users. And that's all I have.
So I did have one question, and I didn't see it. Someone online was asking if we could filter by department. I didn't see that as an option.
That was something we brought up last week, and currently we cannot filter on department.
Okay.
And I don't think it's something that we're going to be, it won't come out with Go Live, correct?
That is correct, yeah. So we have a number, I should point out, we kind of talked earlier about some of the enhancements that are going in by the time we go live at the end of August. As part of the Project Elevate project exercises, we also documented a slew of other enhancements that we either would like to extend our use of functionality or show something just a little bit different than what DAX or what Dynamics does today. And so we have a comprehensive list of those types of items to start working on after we go live. I think there was also another question here, and real quick, Bobby, Kendall, you are our next presenter, so if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen. And then I just wanted to address this one question before you get started. So from Joey Faber, it says it looks like testing training will coincide with budget time. Will we be doing our 2021 budgets in DAX or 365? Also, I haven't been provided with the Dayforce training schedule yet, so I hope that they aren't any conflicts. Well, 365 is always more important, right? I mean, no. All kidding aside, that's a great question. So our original go live was actually expected to be at the end of July, and because it is budget planning season, we were able to move it to the end of August. Now, I know that's still a lot of work for those of you that are involved in budget planning. The one thing I will stress is that your budget plans will be due to the budget team prior to our go live for 365. So you will be focused on completing your budgets inside of DAX 2012, what we have today, and you will not be switching in the middle of the process and trying to learn budget planning in 365. So From that perspective, you know, we won't ask you to try to complete that at the same time. Dayforce, I'm not exactly sure on the training schedule for that. What I can tell you is their go live is several months before ours. You know, I would expect their training to be months before we would offer training for 365. Is that a fair statement? Okay, great. Okay. Tom Norca says I'm online and I heard that. Hi, boss. All right, okay, and with that embarrassment, as I turn red, I will introduce Bobby Kendall. Bobby Kendall works with On Actuate Consulting, whom is our implementation partner for this migration to D365. Today, he's going to provide us a brief demo for Power BI. As I mentioned earlier, Power BI is a business intelligence tool. It's a reporting mechanism. Today, he's going to be showing us what's possible, if you will, within Power BI using our annual budget information. And he's going to share some visuals with us today as well. So with that, Bobby, you can go ahead.
Great. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so today I'm just going to start with kind of what, you know, City of Columbus does currently out of AX, which is they use a budget cube. And this is kind of what comes out, and it comes out into a pivot table for them to use. And so as part of moving to D365, the cubes are being deprecated, and so Microsoft is pushing people to Power BI. And so one of the goals of our project is to start utilizing Power BI as much as possible in D365 for City of Columbus. And one of those is part of the reasons is, as Kyle mentioned in previously, is to, if you can create a report or an analytical visual in Power BI rather than customizing the system, it just goes a long way to, you know, keeping that system running smoothly and preventing a bunch of kind of risk involved when you do the customization. So one of the areas we'll look to is when we want to make a change is, can we, you know, in terms of reporting, is can we do this in Power BI and get it to kind of replicate what you guys need to, rather than going into a form or a list in D365 and trying to manipulate it or customize it in a way to get what you need. So this is just a quick view of what kind of is generally generated for the budget planning group. My Power BI example is not going to have all the different tabs at the bottom. I've just started doing this, so it's a real work in progress at the moment, just to get going on it. And for this demonstration, really just to showcase some of the features of Power BI. So in this example, you have some filtering up here, and it's mostly geared toward the planning aspect of City of Columbus for budgets. And then you have your department division input, personnel, finance adds, finance adjustments, and subtracts along as columns. So, and that same layout pretty much goes the same across all the tabs below, with the caveat there is each tab kind of has different filter settings, which we can do in Dynamics or in Power BI. So I'm going to switch over to Power BI right now. And so initially you'll see right off the bat, Power BI gives you a ton of options. You don't have to have home pages or reports like this. This is just to show as an example of what you can create from a user standpoint. You can start to build out kind of a reporting hub for your particular working group if you want. If you don't want that, that's fine, but you can create those with links to different reports within your area and what you want to use them for. So the other thing to note is this is in a design environment. So once these reports are published, you wouldn't see all of the menu buttons up here. You'd have a more concise user view of the report, and a number of these additional features off to the left and right and above would be missing from the report to make it a bit more visually appealing. So from here, if we wanted to go here, so this would where you would start looking at that budget planning aspect, and this is COC data from the Training 2 environment that we're using. And in this first tab, for the budget planning folks in the room, you can jump on me for not getting it right, but so you have your planning process here, which is the 2020 process, and then below it you have your divisions laid out below that. track. And then above, you can use slicers to decide which particular things you want to filter on. So if you just wanted those particular columns, or if you wanted to add these other columns, you could. If you wanted to change the planning stage that the budget plan is going through, if you wanted to see a different planning stage, you'd be able to do that as well. And you can add as many slicers as you want. It's really one of the trickier parts of Power BI is just report real estate. So how much space you have to work with. It's just kind of you have to go back and forth with trying to figure out what looks good for you guys, and at what point do you start adding too much slicers or things on your page to make the report work. But you can always add along the bottom here, you can always add as many reports here as you want across the bottom, and you can start to see how I've added another column here, or another report for the entire budget by program. So I would jump to that, and it's just a similar report for budget planning by program, but now you've added another layer. So you have your division here, and if you wanted to see program, you would click on the drop down buttons, go into detail as needed. And you can add as many dimension, like the dimension, I call it a dimension tree. So you can as long as it's a dimension, you can add it to the tree and drill down as far as you want. So if you wanted to go division, program, and then add fund here to be able to drill down to fund after program, you could do that. Or you could, if you wanted to make fund first, you could do that as well. And so that's kind of what my task will be for the next coming months here, is to work on that and get those trees right based on the budget planning examples that Cheryl's provided me. So that's kind of just the data part of it. So you can present your data as data, but if you wanted to, say for example, work on some visuals and start to make some charts or graphs or something a bit more interactive for a customer who may not be as familiar with the data in itself, or just views data better when they see charts or graphs, you can start to now put that into play as well. So, and we'll start to see how the data really interacts with each other. So I've basically turned those two data, this data, into a pie chart and a bar graph. And so what you're looking at now is just for public service, for the finance submitted planning stage for those scenarios in the 2020 process. And so what I can do now is, so this is by fund over here. So if I wanted to see general fund, for example, and I click on general fund, so both my graphs update. And so now I can see which areas in public service are utilizing general fund money. So my graphs are interactive in that regard. So now I can see that refuse and public service director's office has a portion of general fund, but the lion's share within public service of general fund is in refuse. But that's just for this planning submitted. So you got to be a bit cautious of your filters and make sure you're aware of what's being filtered on. And at least I'm trying to be more aware of that, because I'm not. You guys are the subject matter experts in your area, but anytime you would just click here, just the data automatically reflects and gives you kind of real-time adjustments based on the visuals you're choosing. So street maintenance, construction, kind of blows out your chart that way. And then, so for example, if you didn't like, maybe the pie chart isn't what you want. So maybe you wanted to do a donut chart. Donuts are your thing. So now you can just easily switch to a donut chart. Same aspect. So from a design perspective, it's pretty easy to just pick the right charts that you want, that makes sense to whatever you're trying to show analytically to somebody, or tell your story with your data. You can do that. And within these, there's a number of formatting settings. So a user can go in here and say, if they don't want to see they want more of a legend and don't want to see anything coming off the chart, they can switch that off and on. You can do a whole bunch of different things with Power BI. There's a lot of a lot of different options for users to consider. These are just the bare bones basic approach right now that I'm showing you guys, but there's a ton of opportunity to kind of really create some cool analytical reports for your working areas. The last area I'm going to show is what is just a even if you wanted to take you can just create your data into even just a fish tank. This is what there's different things online that you can bring into Power BI and to help tell your story for the audience that you're trying to present to. So if you're presenting to somebody who's just totally brand new to City of Columbus and they don't know barely anything, and you just want a perspective visual, so you could just click on one of the fish and it usually has a pop-up come up. But for example, this fish would probably, there it is. This is public safety, so it's the biggest fish in the pond because it has the most money. So it's the size of the fish is generated by the amount of dollars. So there's a number of visuals that kind of can help you give perspective and really tell that story to your audience. The other thing, I'm going to tie this back to Kyle's presentation earlier for personalization, is so once you get your report finished and designed and to a place where you've tested it and it's ready to go, and what will be happening is you will publish this to Dynamics, and then from there users can deploy that report. So not everyone's going to want to deploy the budget planning report, and that's fine. But for that team, what they'll be able to do is deploy the final version of the report that everyone's agreed on, and then add that report, add this Power BI report, or embed it right into their workspace if they want. So that it's right there in their workspace to view whenever they want. They'll also be able to view it on the PowerBI.com app service as well. But it's just one of those things where if you can put it on your workspace and have it ready to go, while you're using Dynamics, there's no real reason to go out to the Power BI service. So you'll be able to add this report just like he added the list page from the purchase order screen. You could add this right to your workspace to have it available to you and use as you log in each day.
And then, Bobby, when you talked about embedding, just real quick, when you talked about embedding that into Dynamics, so we looked at those graphs. It's possible to have those graphs visible within D365, so that whenever you went to maybe your workspace, you would see this donut graph pop up on a daily basis. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So that's the nice thing about the service, and it'll be a little bit hard to explain on the telephone until we get further along. But so maybe only one of these things really looks good to you. Like you're just like, oh, I love that chart. Like this one's awesome. I want this one to show up, the one on the right to show up in my workspace. You'll have the ability to just select this chart here and put it there if that's the only one you want to see. If you want both, you can have both. And if there's another area where you can just create a full-on a bit more of a dashboard feel, so you could just add that entire dashboard to your workspace as well, so you can pick and choose what you want to put on your dashboard or your workspace. I mean.
All right, great, thank you.
Yep. And the last thing I'll go through is this is just a blank canvas. So what you'll be able to do once the data models are complete and established is users will be able to have the ability to go in and create their own Power BI reporting if they want or if they choose to. So you'll be able to, once the data model's finished, you'll be able to go in here and start building out some stuff. And off to your right, this is just what I call the grocery store, because that's all your ingredients for your report that's going to be available to you to use. And then the visualizations are, you just choose which visualization you want to start using. So it's just more about which visualization that you think is going to tell your story the best or make most sense to your business unit team. And sometimes it's sometimes it's just data, and sometimes it can be a bar chart or a fish tank, and then there's a outside. If none of these visuals work, there's a marketplace that you can bring in custom visuals that are out there. Most of them are free. You may have to pay for some of them, but it's just kind of like the App Store for Apple, where you can go and see which visualizations are free and then bring them in if you think that's a good one to tell your story with or keep track of your work. So you're able to do that as well. And then from there, it's just a matter of setting filters and your formatting to really build out your reports to make that work for you. So it does, once the data models are there, it really just gives the users, if they want, to the ability to go in and really build out different reporting that they think can make their work more efficient, or give them a perspective into their data that would help them, drive more efficiency or get things done in a faster manner, or just help them just be more organized with where things are in certain workflows, things of that nature. So there's a lot of opportunity with Power BI, and this one was just for budget planning. I know we have we'll be working on a few procurement ones as well down the road, but we're just getting started with this and figuring out how to replicate this and match it back to what you guys are doing in AX. So there's a lot of work to do still, but we look forward to working with you guys to kind of explore this new technology that is now available to you guys through D365, and really explore how we can make it work for you guys and deliver, just help your guys' work get better on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I think that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me that I can go into.
But I think this is basic question, or it's pretty basic, but Power BI is going to be dynamic then, right? That it will work off of our data as it changes in D365.
Yes, correct. So yeah, I meant to cover that on my notes here. So these will be connected directly to your D365 production environment. So as users are adding transactions in the system, you can set the entity store to refresh at an hourly basis or every 30 minutes or something. I believe at some point in the future, Microsoft's really just trying to get that to be real time. So it's almost, there's no need to refresh. It's just, but you're not going to be waiting a full day to get a refresh. You can set it to refresh, within an hour or every 15 minutes or something like that. So pretty close to real time.
All right, Bobby, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next presenter. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think for each of our user groups, we'll definitely be covering Power BI in some fashion. So like Bobby said, we're just starting, so we'll be showing additional work that we're completing in there as we go. And so I'm just going to get back to our presentation here. And let's see, I need to share this out. And Bobby, can you go ahead and stop sharing if possible?
Yeah, I think you took control of my mouse. I was like, so can you stop moving it for a second? Yeah. I was trying to get there, and it just kept moving.
All right, let's try it.
I think it stopped sharing.
Okay, and with that, I would like to welcome Terry Boland from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and he's going to wrap up our meeting today.
I wonder if, can everyone hear me from here, or should I?
You'll probably have to come. Yeah. Oh, speaker. Okay. Speaker.
Can everyone hear me? I guess I'll have to click though. All right, well, welcome, thank you, Auditor Kilgore and Cheryl, Reed, team
for allowing us to participate in the meeting. Also provide some updates on ODI, new structure, and some new initiatives that we're taking on here in the next couple months. Again, as Cheryl has said, I'm Terry Bolton. I'm the Supplier Diversity Manager here. Just to give you a quick little background, I've been here since October, so about 4 months, but I've been in public service for over 24 years now. Most recently from the Department of Transportation, but prior to that, I worked in public utilities for the city of Cleveland. So I am a Clevelander. If there's any Browns fans out there, I feel your pain. We'll win the Super Bowl one year, next year. But I've been in public service for a number of years, and I just came on board. Most recently, we welcomed our new Chief Diversity Officer, Director Johnson. This is the structure of our office as we speak today. We currently have 4 business development specialists. We have a vacant position currently in our supplier diversity arm, but we also have certification officers, both Tia Roseborough and Nadia Miller, who provide both compliance and certification for our office. Ms. Dewana Allen, Dwayne Parks, and Mike Pettiford are the supplier diversity specialists who will be working specifically with the departments across the city of Columbus. On the far right side, that is from our workforce diversity component. We will be bringing on diversity manager who will help diversify some of our workforce and work in a collaborative way with departments across the city of Columbus. In this is kind of what we call our flow chart. And then the number 1, it should say outreach. So a mistake maybe on my part. But in the center of our universe right now are minority women and small businesses across Central Ohio. So we engage with businesses that look to do business with the city of Columbus, and most importantly, grow their business through some of the procurement opportunities that we have with the city. So when we first start with our engagement, it's always through outreach, and that's actually number 1. And in that outreach, we're hosting training, educational workshops. We're connecting minority businesses to resources. But then also we do what we call the MBE and WB certification. And in that certification, many businesses come to us and look for sourcing opportunities that are specifically for minority and women businesses. So we do that certification in our office, and our certification specialists, both Tia and Nadia. But also we track and we report the spend that we do as a city with minority and women businesses across all of our different departments. But in that 4th piece, which is very important for us, we meet with businesses one-on-one, and we provide technical assistance. That is assisting them with their applications for certification, identifying procurement opportunities through all of the departments. I think that's going to be very important. But also, we're looking at assisting with continuing to find bonding opportunities for our construction companies, insurance. We're going to work also with our BOAP partner. That's the Business Opportunity Assessment Program. And most recently, as everyone knows, there's an ecosystem that has been implemented with the Department of Development. And we're working in partnership with the Department of Development and referring businesses over to that ecosystem. Great program, and there are different working pillars that we'll be able to help some of our businesses grow. Next slide. This is kind of like the layout of what we see as how we can be a resource to each and every department across the city of Columbus. Most importantly, we divided it into kind of work assignments. We have two certification specialists on the top that provide the MBE and WB assistance, but in those 4 business development specialists, they will work specifically with each fiscal person or manager in each department. And that's why I'm here mostly today, because this was a great opportune time to connect with most of our fiscal managers across the city. We divided it, and this is something that has been done in the previous time, but we've divided into specific departments that each business development specialist will work specifically on and with. But most importantly, the idea is to establish ongoing communication, assist departments with sourcing MBE and WB contracting opportunities, participate and assist with outreach and pre-bid meetings when necessary, and just be a subject matter expert when available or necessary. So our focus is to be customer service driven to the businesses, but also be a main resource for all of our departments throughout the city of Columbus. And again, we think this is very important in being, being one-on-one with our customers, our businesses. We also, what's, I guess, another big ask, and I guess how we could work together on this, is we're thinking about putting together a procurement fair, a citywide procurement fair. We threw out some dates and some times, and we were thinking maybe April of this year, maybe late April, to where we would invite vendors from all over the city of Columbus and meet with our procurement specialists, just providing maybe a plan or what are some of the upcoming opportunities that a business can bid on. And we know that, fairs like this have happened before, but we want businesses to walk away with something saying that, hey, the city of Columbus has engaged with us and each department has provided information we can use to grow. Most importantly, within the next week, each business development specialist will be reaching out to those departments as listed. So we do have a vacancy which would cover the human resources, civil service, education, and health. I will be the point person for that, for those departments. But for public utilities, building and zoning, and Department of Technology will be Mr. Mike Pettiford. For finance, safety, Department of Parks and Recs will be Dewana Allen. And for Department of Development, Public Service, and Neighborhoods will be Mr. Dwayne Parks. And we were going to ask for 3 things, if possible, to provide. 1, your spending plan, both capital and operating. 2, a good contact point. How can we meet with you either monthly or quarterly to make sure that we're engaging and communicating. And then 3, any key projects that we could share with businesses across Central Ohio that are looking to do business with the city of Columbus. What's really special, and I think what's great about our business development specialists, is that we have relationships with many of our partners like NAVO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, NAMAC, the National Association of Minority Construction businesses. So we want to leverage those relationships to help businesses, but also look at our procurement plans and how we could help communicate our plans. So our business development specialists will reach out to you next week. It will be a short email, kind of an introduction, and then asking if we could have those 3 items listed within the next couple weeks or so. So we just want to be a resource partner and help businesses grow in Central Ohio. So
I'm clear, from whom are you seeking this information?
So this will be our procurement managers. I received the budget management specialist from each department.
Got it. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah, I received that from procurement.
I'm like procurement manager, I can't give you everything.
Right. Right.
I know who you're talking about, the lead fiscal people in each department and division who are responsible for the internal procurement in your divisions.
Right. So I think, see if there's any next questions.
Went too fast.
Did I make it on time?
You did.
All right, I was rolling through it. Thank you. Right. I was rolling through it, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if there are any additional questions, Barry Bolden, B-O-L-D-E-N.
That's fine.
You can find him in Outlook and send your questions straight to him. I do want to thank everybody for joining today. Auditor Kilgore, all of our presenters, Marnie, Vicki, Kyle, Bobby online. I appreciate it greatly. And we're going to be looking to schedule these dynamic user groups at least once a quarter, like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, and potentially more as we move towards go live. So if there are topics, subjects, things that you would like to see talked about during this meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, I wish you all a good afternoon, and thank you.